Assalamu alaikum viewers, I'm Catherine Zarina Feroz, your host for the English programs for Matric students. Before I begin, let me give you a brief introduction about these programs. As we all know that English has always been a major problem with our students. A very limited number of students study in English medium schools, which provides them with a reasonable English environment. But majority of us do not get that privilege, and they suffer once they face the examination and once they have to speak English. For this purpose, we have chosen 10 lessons from 9th and 10th classes, and of course, we have not ignored our general audience, who I'm sure are going to benefit from these programs. And once you watch these programs regularly and practice the 4 skills, that is, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, I'm sure that you are definitely going to improve your English. Our first program is based on the lesson Pollution that is taken from the 9th class. Our program is divided into 3 parts. The first is you'll be shown a film about what pollution is. Number 2, we'll have language study. And number 3, we'll study the structure of the text, the lesson Pollution. So let's watch the film. Be very careful when you're watching the film because I'll be asking you what is pollution, what are the major sources of pollution, and what are the effects of pollution. So keep your notebooks and pencils ready and watch the film very carefully.
In the last few centuries, science has made great progress. Man has become the master of this earth and all its resources. He has the power and the means to shape this world as he wishes. Great industrial empires have been built to produce large quantities of goods and machines at all hours. This seems to be the golden age, the age of comfort and luxury. One wonders at what cost has man made this progress. Man's bid to conquer his world and use its resources for his benefit made him forget that he was also destroying the world. In order to meet his unending needs, structures of concrete and steel have replaced most of the forests. Forests, which are our suppliers of pure oxygen. Cities of concrete and steel have polluted their atmosphere. Smoke from cars and buses, smoke from factories is poisoning the earth. Factories all over the world are discharging their waste into streams and rivers. Poisonous substances pollute this water and the fish that are found in it. This same water, when used for irrigation, poisons the crops and eventually reaches our food supply, causing various diseases that harm human life. Pollution is a worldwide problem. If unchecked, it will certainly lay the earth waste and barren. One major problem of pollution is that it causes disease. The lead and smoke emitted by vehicles have made some cities of Pakistan dangerous for health. A child who lives in such cities takes in as much smoke as a heavy smoker. This can cause cancer of the lungs. The lead, which is part of the air, can cause diseases of the mind. It must be remembered that pollution is caused not only by vehicles, but also by factories. As such, when Pakistan becomes more industrialized, it will also become more polluted. The only answer to this problem is to produce goods in such a way that pollution is not increased beyond certain safe limits. Moreover, we should not produce too many goods in order to get rich quickly. If human beings are to survive, they should be careful about the necessity of not being greedy. It was greed which gave rise to far more industrial production than required. This must come to an end.
Interesting but frightening, isn't it? I'm sure you must have watched the film very carefully. So are you ready for the questions I'm just going to ask you? Well, the first question that comes to our mind after watching the film is, what is pollution? Can you tell me? Okay, I'll give you 3 points and you just pick the correct one and just let me know what is pollution. A, do you think it's laying the earth waste and barren? B, is it building factories and cities? C, is it poisoning of the environment? Good. Your answer is correct. Pollution is poisoning of the environment. The next question that comes to our mind is, what actually are the major sources of pollution? Can you tell me? Okay. Again, I'll give you 3 directions and you just pick the correct one and just tell me what are the major sources of pollution. A, do you think the fuel from the cars and buses and smoke from chimneys and factories cause pollution? B, industrial areas and insecticides? C, both. That is, the fuel from cars and buses and smoke from factories and industries, and industrial areas and insecticides. Good. Your answer is correct. C is the correct answer. That is, both the fuel from cars and buses and the smoke from chimneys and factories, industrial areas and insecticides, both these are the major sources of pollution. We talked about what is pollution and what are the major sources of pollution. Now let's see what are the effects of pollution or how pollution affects us. Again, I will give you 3 points and you'll have to choose the correct one and tell me what is the correct answer. A, do you think pollution affects us by poisoning the air that is used by human beings and animals? B, do you think pollution affects us by poisoning the water that is used by fish, animal and land? C, both. That is, pollution affects us by poisoning the air that is used by human beings and animals and the water that is used by fish, animals and land. Very good. Your answer is correct. Yes, pollution does affect the air that is used by human beings and animals and the water that is used by fish, animals and land. Now that we have learned so much about pollution, can you tell me how we can lessen the effect or how we can reduce pollution? Well, I'm waiting for your answers. Very good. Number 1 is, we can reduce the effect of pollution by growing trees and saving our forests. Anything else? Correct. Make sure that the industrial waste does not mix with our water supply. Anything more? Good. We can lessen the effect of smoke released by chimneys, factories, industries and our vehicles. Anything more? Excellent. Use such insecticides that do not affect the air, water and land. As we all know that English is not our first language and therefore we face a lot of problems while speaking English, learning English and comprehending it. So the second part of our lesson deals with the language study. Today we'll look into a few vocabulary items and also the use of the present tense. With the help of a chart, I'll show you how to use a word correctly. This would, of course, improve your vocabulary. It would help you in understanding English better, and of course, it would also help you to use different words in different manner. This chart is divided into 4 parts: noun, adjective, verb, adverb. Now you see, harm is a noun and it is a verb also. Harmful is an adjective, harmfully is an adverb. Shape is a noun and shape is a verb at the same time. Shapeable is an adjective. Progress is a noun. Progress is a verb at the same time. Progressive is adjective. Progressively is an adverb. Survey is noun and it can also be used as a verb. So survey is noun and survey is verb at the same time. Now, let's look into those words that can be used as nouns and as verbs and are two-syllabic. That is, they have two syllables. That is, they are said in two parts and each part has a vowel sound. I've taken three words from your text, from your lesson Pollution. The words are progress, produce, survey. Let's practice it.
In the last few centuries, science has made great progress. He progressed slowly in his work with the guidance of his friends. Factories produce a great deal of smoke. The factory has to increase its produce by 30% this summer. A number of surveys in industrial areas show that the problem of pollution is very real. After he surveys this area, he will write a report on the causes of air pollution.
Now, can you tell why some letters of the words are capitalized? You're right. It shows where you stress. That is, you have to apply force while pronouncing the vowel sounds. So, in the noun, you stress on the first letters, and while on the verbs, you stress on the second letters. Is that clear? Let's practice it.
Nouns, verbs. Nouns. Produce. Verb, produce. Noun, survey. Verb, survey. Noun, progress. Verb, progress.
Now let's see what we have covered up till now. The first part was about pollution and we saw a video film on pollution and we discussed different questions. The second part was language study in which we saw how a word can be used in different forms. Now we come to the third part and that is the structure of the text. In this lesson, the comparison is between two structures and that is the simple past and the present tense. Let's first look into the use of simple past in the text. If you see the fourth paragraph of this lesson, pollution, you'll see the verbs that are used in simple past are underlined. This is to show that something happened or a situation took place, began or ended in a particular time in the past. Listen to this paragraph.
In the beginning, the human population of this planet was very small. People lived in caves. They learned to make stone tools and built huts of mud and wood. In the course of time, they learned to raise crops and tame wild animals.
And the sentences 5th, 7th and 8th in the fourth paragraph show another use of simple past, and that is to show what happened first. In all these three sentences, the word as is used to show us what happened first. Let's listen to these sentences.
They began to clear the land of bushes and trees for cultivation of crops. They needed more and more land for their farms and settlements. As time went by, human beings began to multiply.
Usually, if a sentence has when, and in both its clauses simple past is used, the action in the when clause happens first. Another important point to remember is that simple past is used when specific mention of time is given. So now let's see the three uses of simple past. A, what happened or something happened or an action began and ended in the past. For example,
I went under the shade when it got too hot. I went under the shade when it got too hot.
B. The simple past in the when clause is used to tell what action took place first if no other word helps us to know. For example,
When I dropped the cup, I spilled tea on my clothes. When I dropped the cup, I spilled tea on my clothes.
C. The simple past is used if there is a specific mention of time. For example,
Hello, Shahida. How are you? You are looking nice. Are you going somewhere?
Yes, I'm going to watch a movie, Home Alone. Would you like to come with me?
No, thank you. I saw that movie last night.
Okay then, bye.
I saw that movie last night.
now let us look at the use of the present perfect tense in the lesson. Can you define what is present perfect tense? Yes. It is the verb which shows that the action mentioned is complete, finished and perfect at the time of speaking. Let us look at these sentences in your lesson Pollution.
In the last few centuries, science has made great progress. Today, the structures of concrete and steel have replaced most of the forests. In large cities and industrial estates, the atmosphere has become polluted.
In this use of present perfect, the exact time is not important. The point is what happened before now in the past, that is important. Let us compare the use of the simple present and present perfect. Look into these sentences and see how the meanings change.
In the last few centuries, science has made great progress. In the 19th century, science made great progress.
Well, with this exercise, we come to the end of our first program. But before we leave, let's see what we have done so far. In the first part, we saw a film on pollution with three major questions in our mind. That is, what is pollution, what are the sources of pollution, and how it affects us. This was followed by language study, in which we learned to pronounce certain words, their usage, and how they can be used in different forms. We also studied the grammatical structure of simple past in comparison with simple present and present perfect tenses. I hope you found today's lesson very interesting and useful. So it's Khudafiz for now, till our next program.